Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming to learn about what's new from BookNet on sales data and library data. I'm Monique. I'm the project manager for sales data and library data at BookNet. I also teach ebook production at Ryerson's Book Publishing School, so if you saw me around yesterday at Ebook Craft, that's why I was there. So I'm really excited to be here and talk to all of you about what's new this year in sales data and what we have coming over the next year so you can bring even more data to your business strategy. So I'm going to start with a sales data year in review, what we've been up to. Over the last 12 months, users ran over 320,000 reports. That's almost 900 reports per day, so nice work, nerds. Really appreciate it. Speaking of numbers in the 900s, we have 936 scheduled reports that go out to users each and every week. That's up from 739 last year, so automation is good, you really like it, and these scheduled reports are saving you a lot of time. We estimate based on the average amount of time it takes a user to log in and run a basic report that it's saving our users a combined 608 minutes each week. That's about 527 hours a year, or 15 work weeks. So you're welcome, publishing industry. We're saving you lots of time and giving you that time back to do even more incredible things with the books that you publish. We've been tracking sales on hand and on order against over 40 million ISBNs since sales data's inception in 2005, and 868,000 of those ISBNs had activity in the last 12 months. That number is up year over year. We were at 839,000 last year, and we were about 50K up the year before that as well. So we've been seeing this figure rising, and there's a growing number of books moving through the supply chain every year. We're gathering this data from 150 retailers. We added 36 retailers in the last 12 months to Sales Data's reporting panel. These retailers have over 1,500 store locations across the country. If you're interested in finding out when new retailers sign up to sales data, if you're a subscriber, you can sign up for the sales data newsletter to get updates when we're adding those retailers to the panel. But what else is new with sales data? Our new feature development this year was really focused on flexibility and automation, so we can save you even more than 527 hours next year. The first was a multi-ISBN searchable criteria report. This report allows you to run a multi-ISBN report without bringing the list of ISBNs to the table from the beginning. When we talked to users, they talked about how running the multi-ISBN report was a two-step process. They often ran another report first and then ran the multi-ISBN report after, so that was taking up a lot of time. So we wanted to build in some features that allowed them to run that report without needing to run another report first. So using the searchable criteria, you can create a report by pulling in ISBNs using a number of criteria, including the title, series, and subtitle information, the author or contributor name, the publisher, imprint, or distributor name, the BISAC subject, and a pub date range as well. This report is really great for doing comp research and pulling overtime data without having to run multiple reports at a time, because that overtime reporting in multi-ISBN is incredibly valuable for comp titles. To go along with the searchable criteria, we also wanted to add even more flexibility to saved reports, so you can set a dynamic rolling pub date range on your saved multi-ISBN reports. So this is now making the multi-ISBN one of Sales Data's most robust reports. But when we were looking at usage, I thought there were a few reports that I think are really useful that a lot of users aren't taking advantage of, so I wanted to give a few tips on reports you can start using and take through the rest of 2019. The first is a backlist analysis report. Backlist sales are a significant part of book sales year over year. They're just under half. But if you're only running bestseller reports, your sort of front list blockbusters might be crowding out your backlist from being visible on those reports. So here's how you can make sure you see those titles. Here I've used the pub date filter, which is available in all of Sales Data's title level reports, to pull in backlist titles. The easiest way to do this is to use the end date on your pub date filters to be the cutoff point to what you consider your backlist titles. So I'm using here about a year ago being the sort of end of my backlist period. You can run this in bestseller or in the bestseller gaps gap analysis report. I wanted to give this tip as well. The bestseller gaps is sort of like a bestseller report that really ate its Wheaties this morning. It gives you a lot more than a standard bestseller. You can also get side-by-side sales from multiple markets at a time. So if you find that you're running bestsellers for different markets over and over, running the bestseller gaps gives you all of that data in one fell swoop. Again, trying to save you time. But if you only need one market sales, the regular bestseller report, our OG, will do you just fine. So here are my results looking at backlist titles in my bestseller gaps. You can use the same strategy with the pub date filter to isolate the front list titles by setting only the start date and leaving the end date blank, and you can use any time span you like to define your front list. But what other reports should you be diving in on? I wanted to talk more about our newest reports, the searchable criteria and rolling pub date multi-ISBN. Like I teased earlier, these are our newest features, and they're perfectly matched to do automated comp tracking. So sales reps or acquiring editors can use these automated reports to do some set it and forget it comp tracking and analysis of titles in a category. So let's pretend for a minute that instead of working at BookNet, I've decided to rep a lot of cozy mystery or publish a lot of cozy mystery. In the multi-ISBN searchable criteria report, I can specify the subject area I want to analyze. So here I've put in cozy mystery. You can add multiple subjects. If cozy mystery isn't your bag, you can select whichever ones you like. And I'll also set my pub date range. For this report, because I'm wanting to see what's most active currently, I'm going to go back 2 weeks, so the most recent 2 weeks of on sales, and forward 2 weeks as well, so I can see some forthcoming title data. And now that I have my results, I can set up my saved and scheduled report using the Save and Distribute button. And when I open that pop-up that I am able to use to save all the settings for my report, I can verify the pub date range is the way I want it, and I can change it as well 52 weeks in either direction. So if I want to see the top-selling titles of the previous year and the upcoming year, you can go up to 52 weeks in either direction. So once my report is saved, you can see the criteria summary at the top of your report that will tell you what your report will email to you every single week. So that's pretty handy, and I hope some of you take that away and use it over the next year. But that's enough of the past. Let's talk about what's coming up with sales data. This one's kind of a cheat because the CBM 2018 is actually available now. The Canadian book market is our comprehensive research study that shows sales data from the last year and goes over the performance of different categories across the market. So it's a really useful report, and there's a sweet discount code on the slide. So if you are interested, you can download that on our website. We're also working on an updated research sidebar. So if you've used the sales data homepage before and you look at that research sidebar, we're giving it a little TLC. So you can see your familiar sales data homepage with your graphs. And now we've added additional reports to view on this page. Our newest research will be able to download right from the sales data homepage without having to log in separately to the research portal. So again, trying to save you time and steps so you can really get to the data that you need. We're planning to roll this out later this spring. Other items we're looking at adding to the roadmap for the upcoming year is additional columns in the gap analysis reporting, so it improves your coverage, so you need fewer reports to get all of the data points you need. We're also adding higher level front list and backlist reports, so you can analyze the market share and comparative market performance of backlist and front list as a category at a really big picture level. We're also looking at adding last year to date as a date option in over time reporting, so you can compare this year to date and last year to date equal periods, which is really useful. And we're also looking at adding greater column flexibility and customization. So you can already customize the columns you see in your reports, but we're looking at also giving you the option to reorder columns, lock them in place, and others. And last but not least, this is probably not much of a spoiler since you already read the title of my presentation. We're working on library data, which will illuminate what happens to the books that you publish after the libraries are putting them out on the shelves. But why is this important? We know that 56% of Canadian readers used a library over the last year, and 40% of Canadians visit the library monthly. So that's a pretty significant number of readers. 3.5% of Canadians are super patrons, and they visit the library at least 10 times each month, often much more. And we also know that 24% of Canadian readers' monthly book acquisition is through the public library. That's higher than any other method. 21% of book acquisition each month is through new retail purchasing. So we know that people are really acquiring their books through the library, and this is a question I've been asked so often since we started looking at library data, and that is, does library use cannibalize retail sales? And I'm really happy to tell you that it does not. The librarians in the room were like fist pumping. I like it, so enthusiastic. We actually know that library visitors buy more books than anyone else. The average book buyer who does not visit the library buys 2.6 books every month, but library patrons average between 2.7, which is just a little higher, and 6 books per month, which is a lot higher, with the average for library users being 3 books per month. So they are buying a ton of books, even though they frequently visit places teeming with books that they can get for free. A little counterintuitive, but it's really interesting to know that these heavy readers read from both the library and from retail as well. So they're driving a ton of book purchasing. So understanding what they read and where their demand lies could really help us gain an even greater understanding of what Canadians are reading and what they want to learn and what they might want to pick up next. So what data points will you have access to in library data to help you learn more about this? We're gathering these 5 data points from 5 ILS, or integrated library systems across the country. And ILS is essentially a POS, or point of sale system for libraries. We're working with Polaris, Symphony, Horizon, Evergreen, and Koha. They're 5 of the most popular ILS providers in Canada. And we're gathering loans, holds, renewals, copies on order, and the collection quantity of the items in libraries' collections. I really wanted to thank these libraries in particular for working with us as we build out our reporting. So Coquitlam, Cornwall, Hamilton, Huntsville, Lincoln, Track and the Marigold Library System, Newmarket, Ottawa, Toronto, Vaughan, Vancouver, and Whitchurch Stouffville. I know some of you are in the room. Thank you so much for working with us and answering my many questions. I really appreciate all of your expertise and helping us develop this product. So from the libraries whose data we've already been receiving, we've tracked data for 814,000 ISBN clusters. And you might be wondering, what is an ISBN cluster? ILS circulation data is reported at what we call an ISBN cluster level. So these 12 editions of Frankenstein, along with 15 others that didn't have cover art that I could put on a slide, are one ISBN cluster. And if you think about how you use the library, it makes sense that the ISBNs are clustered in this way. If you want a copy of Frankenstein, you probably don't care which edition it is that gets fulfilled when you place your hold. You just want to read the book as soon as possible. So when you place a hold against the ISBN cluster, the first copy within that cluster is what's delivered to you. So typically an ISBN cluster represents a single work, though that's not always the case, and the reporting in library data is based around these clusters. So when I show some of the reports in a minute, you'll see what that looks like. So the interesting thing to note is that these 814,000 ISBN clusters actually represent even more ISBNs moving through public libraries in the last 12 months or so. So what kinds of reports will be available for you on all of these ISBN clusters? We're going to go on a little tour of what's going to be available in library data when we launch later this year. The first is full integration with SalesData. So if you are already a SalesData user, you will be very familiar. There's going to be one login and a shared interface, and you can toggle between the 2 sets of reports seamlessly. So SalesData is getting a bit of a facelift to make room for library data when we launch. So you can see this is what the SalesData homepage will look like, and library data is available in the top navigation. And when you switch to the library data homepage, you'll have familiar elements like your recently run saved reports, the research portal box, as well as graphs showing the overtime performance of the libraries, and this helpful report carousel that will tell you how you can use some of the new reports to kind of help you get onboarded in using the product. Some of the new reports that will be available include popular books, which are sort of like the SalesData Bestseller Report, sort of rank based on loans, holds, or orders to analyze demand from patrons and libraries. So when you set up the criteria, you'll be able to select the aggregated library data you want to use, which could be a library system, an individual library branch, or a group of libraries like a province or region. You'll also be able to apply your subject or language filters and choose how you want to rank the report. So you could rank based on the highest loans, the highest holds, the loans per copy and holds per copy ratios, as well as the number of copies on order if you want to see what's the sort of most popular forthcoming titles. And the results look like this. You'll notice similar features to sales data, like being able to download and schedule your reports. So hopefully we can save libraries 527 hours this year. And also that second column, which might be hard to see on the projector, tells you the number of ISBNs counted in a titles cluster. So you have that context so you understand the data that you're looking at a little more easily. The next report option is the book activity report, which allows you to track the activity of a single item, like the single ISBN report in sales data. It's a good way to do a deep dive on a particular work. So here I have the book activity report for that Frankenstein cluster we talked about before. You can see in the grid at the top, you have all the bibliographic information for each of the ISBNs counted in that record. And if you click on the little eye icon, it'll pop out the full bibliographic record if you need more data than what's available there. If you scroll down the page, you'll get an overtime line graph showing the loans, the holds, the copies on order, the collection quantity, and the number of copies checked out each week. If you've been using sales data, you may have noticed we recently changed the functionality of our line graphs. You can click on any data point in the legend, and it'll hide that data point from the graph. So if you like to take quick screenshots for emails or presentations, that might make that even easier for you. Below the graph, you can see the week-by-week circulation data, and you can also see the all-market retail sales for the ISBN cluster in this report. We have that all-market ISBN cluster sales in each of the reports that are title level, so you can compare the sales and the library circulation side by side. I'm especially excited about the collection gaps reports. These are really powerful collection analysis tools so that libraries can identify high-performing titles that they may want to add to their collections that are currently missing. So you can compare any library to any other library, a library branch, or to the retail sales market to identify titles that you may want to add to a collection. So aside from selecting the comparators, the library and the retail market, or the multiple libraries, you can also apply filters like subject, language, title availability status, so you can filter out titles that are out of print or otherwise not available, which are obviously hard to get for your collection because they may not be available, as well as apply thresholds for loans, holds, and on-order quantities, so you know exactly what you're getting, and you can make an incredibly tactical report. So this report demonstration here is just a simple all libraries nonfiction gap analysis report. And like I mentioned, the more filters you apply, the closer you can get to an incredibly strategic result. The last of the reports that are currently finished is the Bestsellercirc. This report returns the weekly bestseller report from a retail market and displays the selected libraries' stock and circulation for those titles. So it's a really great way to see at a glance if the titles that are moving in retail are in stock at your library and see how they're circulating. Like the other reports, you can filter by subject and language, so you can dive in on a particular segment of a collection and get a quick up-to-date glance on the bestsellers and whether or not your library has them and if they need to be added to a collection. But what's next for library data? We have so much left to go. We're working on a library research study to share some of what we've learned, so you can stay tuned to the BookNet blog and the eNews newsletter to receive it as soon as it's available. We're also looking at offering regional analysis by city and by province. So to do that, we need to gather even more libraries data so we can offer these breakouts. We're also looking at adding breakouts for things like population density, so you can compare urban and rural libraries and things like that as well, so you can get an even better sense of what Canadians are reading. This could be a real game changer for reps looking to identify trends and opportunities for retail or library accounts in certain cities and regions. We're also working on one last report type, which will allow subscribers to track the performance of whole subjects and/or languages at a library to help plan their collection. So you can see the performance of a subject grow and change over time. This can really help with collection development planning and also understanding how patron tastes in these different regions changes. But last but not least, we're not building all of this cool stuff just to hog it for ourselves. We're planning to launch our beta later this spring with a full launch planned for early summer. So if you're interested in participating, you can sign up at librarydata.ca. and check your email subscriptions on the Settings tab of Sales Data to make sure you're subscribed to those email updates. And like all BookNet products, Sales Data and Library Data's future development is driven by stakeholder feedback. So if you've got data dreams, please don't hesitate to get in touch. I have 3 email addresses on this slide, so you have no excuse. We'd be really happy to hear from you about how we can help make your business more strategic with data.